Okay, guys, back here for a look at Litecoin. I'm kind of doing them out of order here. This was by far the most requested in the polling, right? So understandably here as we're mid-pump as I start recording here. Really interesting. So just for a quick review here, just let's recall here. So just like Bitcoin, where we hit this 50, we come second target. So you can see we pause here at first target, get a little reaction, but it has the legs to get to second on damn near to the tick. But of course, with that as our clearly identified as a technical pivot that we know the algorithms use, so I would just grab that, go back down to that same low and take note here. Now let me take this one off. A little interesting confluence here. So as we bump into this prior support here, that potentially sets up a pivot here as we come into the 50. Now, nothing says we have to stop there, and we've got this one as well. But it will give you just some areas that you might anticipate some resistance. You can see here over on the volume profile, we're coming into a low volume node. There has not been market acceptance there recently here, so this is visible range. Now I can fatten that up by getting some more history here. But this is just a reasonable spot to be targeting here. Now, obviously, we're in some sort of an extension here. So now I would suggest this, right? So much like I said with ICX. This is a really challenging count, right? So before I reveal what I think is a workable count, this would be my primary count. I would encourage you to go through, see if you can get it figured out yourself. Just compare the two and see if maybe if I give you something new to think about, or maybe an area that you hadn't really worked through the subdivision here. So just give it a try. These are definitely one. Right, of course, it's getting interesting now in crypto again. But secondly, the technical challenge here is substantial, right? It's a real test of your Elliott skills. All right, so with this established, I'm going to take that off. So we know that that's a 50 here. So we're just coming into this pocket where we're likely going to run into, if nothing else, at least a pause, some resistance there. Now that's a 4-hour. Let's see if I can do it on a 1-hour here. All right, so this is what's happening right now. So, this is so well. Let me back up. Right. So we had looked at this a couple of times as to whether or not we had where the third was. Well, first, where's the 1? Where's the 3? Now that we've got this, right? So we started eliminating possibilities here because we've got a series of impulses throughout here, which help identify where we are. But you kind of start second guessing yourself because there was a very strong case to be thinking that we were done here. We're looking for a deeper retracement, but obviously that wasn't what the market had in mind. So what I think we've got here is a 1-2-1-2. So this being the larger trend here, I should say the larger degree. So coming into this, this was a chart challenge that we did. Very tricky in here, but I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can get my one wave in here. So here's the first one. So it's a little skinny, but even all the way down here, it does look like we get a truncation on this last little pivot. But if I really zoom in down here, you can see there is a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. So I think we have to use this as our low. And this a failed 5th here because the impulse coming off is pretty solid, right? So we get a 1, 2, and then just kind of working through it from there. I think we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's get that dialed in there. So this gives us our first 1 right here. A, B, C into the 2. Pretty solid. All right, little shallow on what would be typical for a 2, but the subdivision's there. We like that. So that gives me a 1, 2. Now it looks like I've got to go into my 3 here. So it's a little bit of a, working through that subdivision. Where's your 1? All right. So can't be here. Well, pardon me. So yeah, we can do that. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let's just double check that here. So yeah, we don't overlap. So if that's the 1. Down to this little 2. Yeah, that's perfectly valid. So first 1. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, no threat at that degree. But then I think we've got to go into an extension in the 5th. So this, get this here. So coming off of the low, 1, 2, 3, 4 extension in the 5th. All right, so the symmetry is not crazy, or it's not terribly uncommon. Right, so looking there, actually pretty good. Right, so the extension's in the 5, 3 is longer than 1, 1 being the shortest, very valid. Right, so here comes, so we get a nice solid big 1 here at that degree. All right, so that's the first one that we complete. Okay, so let's back into the larger degree. Okay, so I've got a completed impulse into this 1, A, B, C into my 2. Okay, working off of that. Then again, I think we go 1, 2 at this degree to accommodate what we've got here. It looks like a pretty solid impulse. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a little skinny in the 5th, but the 2 to the 4, there it was, pardon me. The length of the 3rd, well, we're coming to the 23. A little surprised we didn't bump into this as some support here, but it's just too strong. So I think we have to go into this as 1, 2. Oh shit, 1, 2. Looks like you'd have to go 3, 4, 5 into the 3, 4. So that gives us the second 1 here. All right, so 1, 2, 1, and then back down for the 2. So scrunching back up here to put it in the context. So dominant, larger degree 1, 2, 1, A, B, C. Right down into this low here for the 2 of the next degree. So it's deep for the 2. So just to put it in context here. So if this is our secondary 1 wave here. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. 1, 2. Looks like we're pushing the 887 there, but it's valid, right? We don't overlap, so we have an internal retracement. Then we go 1, 2 again. Right, so here's looks like we get a little diagonal here. So off of this low, 1, deep 2 again, right? Also very deep. But then again, I think we've got to go 1, 2, right? Just to try and accommodate, right? So now you wouldn't know this, but now here with everything that's coming, I think we've got to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so here's if this is the 1, 2, we get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's the impulse for my 3 at this degree. So take note here at this degree. So we're going 2 into the 2. I need an impulse here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is my impulse. Okay, so that also doesn't look great. I mean, the 1's the skinny, 2 is deep, but the 3, 4, and 5, that symmetry, very, very reasonable. So 1, 2, right? 3, A, B, C, again with the skinny C. Right, you see them strong markets, right? That's all we're left with here is this A, B, C, and then again 1, 2. All right, so here's a very clear. The symmetry is beautiful here. This is very nice. 1, 2. Oh shit, looks like 3, 4, and then up for that 5. So again, just all beautifully technical, great symmetry, just lovely Elliott trading, just making it easy, right? We don't threaten the 1 here. This very, very hard to miss this part. It's just putting it all together. That's what's making it challenging, right? It's not identifying these impulses and corrections. Is where are we here? If we're finishing, well, what have we got there? So this looks like the larger 3. And prior to this last kick that looked like a very reasonable spot, we could have topped there, right? The whole thing could have started correcting. Then this, it looks like we get an A, B, C here into a double bottom here. So we just get sideways congestion, very typical of a 4. So it creates a shallow 4, very shallow 4. A, B, C, and then again, 1, 2. Well, now where are we? 1, 2. Where's the 3, right? Is it here? Right? Have we done this? 3, 4. It looks like you can make that case. So is the 5 looking to go in up here? All right, it would be one hell of a grind up higher. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like, just out of curiosity, that may be too far. I'm going to guess that's too far. Yeah, way too far. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 2 to the 4. That's our 3. Right between the 23 and the 38, we're through the first algo target. Now, interestingly, look where second algo target is. We know that pivot was right on a front run on the 50. So this looks like a very reasonable target here. If this is going to top out and give us potentially, now it's just potential, right? We no way to know until we see what happens when we get there. as potentially the fifth. Now put that all back together. Let me go to a 2 hour. What are we setting up here? This completion of the first impulse off the low. So we start to think about what we're doing here and what is likely next. So first, is there a trade here if you're not long? Well, I would, I guess you know my thought there. That's right. What I would not chase it up here myself. Happen to be long, right? Just from not necessarily trading it, but just holding it. So this is, I'm loving this, right? So anyone who's a hodler is loving this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like the 5 is in. At some point here, we're going to get some, I'm going to guess we don't have any divergence here. So interestingly, this has now become the peak here of this move here. We're starting to get a little pullback here. So it's going to be interesting to see how this resolves, because this is all really potentially setting up. Let's just, for the sake of the discussion, say that says this will be very close to the 50 from that larger pivot. If we're going to finish this right here. Okay, so all we're setting up is from the low. If we were to pivot up here, well, interestingly, look where the 50 comes in, right back to some prior resistance here. So this is really where, and that's interesting, we get kind of a tightened spot here from some of this structure. So the prior 3, 4. Wouldn't be unusual if we were to come down here and get something like this, right? So something is going to have to spark that sell-off, and of course, nothing says we must come down that far. It would just be the more common thing you'd be looking for if we start to correct any of this to create the next opportunity. So if you're not currently long, boy, you're kind of in no man's land here. It's way too late to be a buyer up here. At some point, there'll be some profit taking from people who caught some of this move. And here's really where your next opportunity is. So you're going to have to be very patient here and not give in to the FOMO, which would have you buying it up here. Right? This is not a place to be adding to longs as we go into this kind of extreme, heading right into a 50. So if you're not in it, you're going to have to patiently wait for some kind of retracement back to prior support. Otherwise, it's just, if you buy it up here, where's your stop? What are you going to use? Just a random percentage of your account size? Well, that's not an unreasonable thought, except ideally, you always want to use the market to let the market prove you wrong. So, right, just using your pocketbook is would not be the preferred way to approach it. So, if you're a buyer here, you can put a stop here, right? So we let the market prove us wrong here if we're going to take out the structure here. But here, so that, what is that suggesting? If we do start to do that, this is the 2 of the larger degree. So the potential upside here is, well, substantial, right? So we get something like this, and then we get that kick. That's a big 3, right? So we can just look at what that target would be. 178. So let's go back out. Let me go to a 4 hour here and try and put the whole thing back together. Woo, that's beautiful. Just beautiful to see. Okay, so so we know we're going to run into some resistance here. Interesting, we have this little stripe here and this stripe here where we're creating some of this. This is the first one, because this was technical that brought us down to those lows. So this is going to be a bit of a tell. What happens here at this 50? Now, if we can get through, it's going to be hard to do it. But if we're going to have to get through, we're going to have to retrace down here and then get through to something like that. Now we're talking about major. So, of course, you'd have to go back one, right? There'll be an algo there to defend that. Here, 171. So if you're going to get the true third here would be your 1618. So if we're going to get that, now we're breaking through resistance all the way. But that's basically what you're setting up here. Is at some point here we're going to start to retrace, and that's the trade you're waiting for. Now, is it likely to not go straight? It's going to hit resistance all along the way. These are the first ones we're going to hit. We got more to get through, but if we can get that, man, it's game on in crypto, right? We're way off this low. So the important thing that's going to come is when we do start to retrace, whether it's profit taking or there's some negative news, something will cause this. Likely there'll be some degree of a retracement, even if we just use you know, this kind of prior structure here where we had this congestion here, this area here. So interesting, that kind of how we look at how that relates to the what we'd be looking for here is our buy zone here, the 50 to the 618. If we're going to come back down here, right, again, no telling where this thing stops, but if we're going to come back down here, either the temptation to take profit will be so great, people won't be able to resist it, and the trailing stops get hit along the way. Ultimately, I could very easily see us pulling back here to back to 60. So again, this is all a function of making an assumption as to where we pivot up here. I do not have that number. Shit, it could be up here for all I know. There's just no way to know until we get that pivot. I'm just using a logical place where we might anticipate some resistance. Come back down here. That's the monster. That's the one you want. Right? That would be the big 3. Now we're back off towards, well, you know, let's see. Can I get the whole thing put together? Let me go 8 hour here. So here's our old high up here at 419. So if that's 3, well, that's just out of curiosity. Let's say we come down here for 4. Come here. And then up for a 5. Okay, where are we then? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, of course, all that's going to set up is the next 50, right? So it could get really interesting, right? So now if we were to get up here, right now we've got another completed impulse. Let me take this one off. Then you'd have to go, oh shit, man, this is going to get harder to do here because I can't get to it. Okay, so then you'd have to be looking at the all the way. Shit. Boy, that was quite a pump. All the way. Right, there's the all the way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bumps into the 50 from the all the way halfway back. Get that right on there. 1. So here's really what you're looking at. 1, 2, 3. Now we're back at the old highs. That's how you get there. 1, 2, big 3, 4. Now we're off to new all-time highs. So there's your roadmap. Right? That's how we can get there. But a lot has to happen, right? So the big tell is what eventually there'll be a retrace here. What happens there? Do we hold and then kick for the 3? Then we're looking good. All right, guys. Let's try and get one more in today because I think there were 2 that were tied here. Okay, so back to